How's it going?
Going well.
Thanks very much indeed. We seem a long way on the side here. Right? So yeah, Sean, Jonathan Badeen, co-founder and VP of product at Tinder. Introduced the wrong co-founder there, almost. That's a good start. You've had, I think you're now saying the figures around Tinder are just astonishing. 1.3 billion swipes a day, 14 million matches a day. I think it took you about a year and a half to get to the first billion matches, and then 3 months later you hit 2 billion. Is that kind of momentum sustaining?
It is. It's great, and it's amazing seeing it continue to grow like it does. It astonishes us every day.
And so you invented the swipe right signature now, which has been adopted by so many other kind of places. What was the kind of thinking behind that originally, and why do you think it's sort of been such a popular form of interaction on the small screen?
Sure. Originally, it was based of sort of examining a card stack and knowing that I needed to make a sort of binary decision with that, a yes or no, or a true or false, or something along those lines. And it came out of a desire with a couple goals: to remove clutter from the screen, and which includes buttons and all of that, and also to be able to be used with a single hand, which means not reaching around all over the screen. Eventually, thinking about how I organize stacks of cards usually, especially in that sort of situation, is I create 2 more piles. I take that card and I say yes. I take this card, I put no, and I put it into that stack. And that's really where it was. Once it came to that conclusion, it just was simple. How do you do that on a touch screen? You throw it over because you can't literally pick it up. And it's even kind of convenient, the fact that the right swipe is directed towards the match list.
Right.
So what you end up with is, it's like you trying to throw it into the match list.
Right. And why is that better than scrolling or tapping or many of the other? I mean, there's loads of, pull to refresh. There's lots of kind of little design tweaks that we've become familiar with. And did you look at any of those as a way of sorting and filtering and giving the thumbs up or the thumbs down?
I think, and obviously we did end up keeping the buttons, I think, to make things simple, if people don't realize the swipe because we don't instruct. But I think it's nice because, especially in this sort of scenario, we are very visually based, and so we need to commit our attention to a single person at a point in time. Having a sort of scroll interface and all makes it a little bit more difficult to focus on there, and you're not going to be able to have big pictures and whatnot by doing that. And so it allows you to also sort of make quick decisions, which I think was sort of key to Tinder.
Right. It kind of forces a quick decision.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is really good. Which also it ends up providing us a lot more information, because when you're using something else and you're just scrolling through the content, you can't really derive as much information. You don't really know that they went past that because they didn't like it, or that they did like it. They may have just inadvertently scrolled past it,
Right.
for whatever reason. Where with swiping, because you're forced to make that decision, you're telling us with each person that you do not like them or you do like them, and then we can start to look for the patterns as to maybe why you didn't like them and whatnot.
Right. And so what are you doing with that data at the moment in terms of, does that helps tune the next selection
Absolutely.
you get? Does that happen in real time?
It's a work in progress and always will be. We're collecting this information, and it's going to help us improve as we progress. And we plan on really focusing on that and digesting that information. I know OkCupid has done a lot of this sort of analysis, and
Right.
we have plenty of data. So hopefully we'll be creating some very compelling data, whether we share it or not.
Right. And so that then, because I think a lot of people, sometimes there's a sort of criticism that Tinder makes everything a bit too superficial and too kind of looks based. And but then on the other hand, people sometimes fret too much. I mean, the problem in some ways that you guys solved was fretting too much about your profile on OkCupid or Match, part of the same family, but how do you can kind of balance that? You can get a little of but intuit that data more than asking people to write it down.
I think one of the things that we had really focused on when we created Tinder was trying to minimize the amount of time to sign up, because that's something that people like to avoid, especially when you're talking about a mobile device. You don't want to be sitting there typing in a whole bunch of stuff. It becomes tiresome. And really trying to get things to their basics. And I think we did that, and I think the more that we can infer, the better. And I think there's a lot of things that can be inferred that we haven't even touched upon yet.
Right.
And start to learn about our users without them having to explicitly tell us. I think there's opportunities where we might allow people to enter more in, but it's obviously spoken that the people have spoken in terms of liking our approach.
Sure. How do you? I mean, it's something that's cropped up in a lot of other apps in different areas. I even came across one that would let you do house hunting via swipe left and right. How do you feel about that? Is imitation the sincerest form of flattery? Does it annoy you? Did you ever consider patenting it?
It's both, and we're, of course we have legal teams that are always looking for whatever. We're not going after anybody right now, but
right now, you're warned.
But it's incredibly flattering. It's absolutely amazing, to see other apps doing this, and especially when it's in a field where I'm like, oh, I can use this, and it's sort of crazy. It's the kind of thing you dream about, I think, really, is that, of making something that impactful. That is really cool. That said, sometimes I'm sort of, a little bit protective of it, and it's mine, get away. But in general, pretty flattered.
Has there ever been a sort of an idea that Tinder would use it in other ways, or that you would kind of use that interaction platform?
Absolutely.
In a different sphere? Or?
Yeah. So we're obviously doing pretty well in the dating world. We'd like to be synonymous with meeting people, though. Same way that Google is with search. We want to make Tinder synonymous with finding people for whatever reason, not whether it's dating, whether it's business, whether it's all of those things. And I think we'll focus a lot on that, and find little bits where we can sort of expand that. I think we also, right now, we have that happening with our upcoming feature, Passport, which a lot of people are already using Tinder for other purposes, including, I've been told, people who get jobs. Had somebody told me the other day that they met their co-founder on Tinder, which was a little unusual, but yeah.
But just talk a bit about Passport, because that's part of Tinder Plus,
yes,
which is the new premium tier that you're not testing in the States yet, but you are testing in some other markets.
That's correct. We're testing in several different markets. We're testing sort of the pricing and the product mix with it. So it's not determined yet, but within the coming months we'll be releasing it to everybody. And Passport allows you to change your location, or it also provides you the ability to undo. Those will be in the final product.
So the Passport, the idea being that if you're going somewhere, you can try and make a few new friends before you get there. Is
right.
that the idea?
Exactly. A lot of people, people have been doing this, anyway. That's the first thing they do when they step off the plane is to, start trying to meet people, and to. Sometimes it's to go on dates. Sometimes it's actually to find out where the local hotspots are.
Right.
We've heard all sorts of stories about that. And what we're hoping with this is that it'll actually allow people to do that before, so they can enjoy their vacation or whatever it is without having to spend all their time in Tinder.
But do they have to actually be there in the place that they've designated to kind of pick up responses, or
no? Technically, they do. They don't actually technically ever have to go there, but we see it as something that people will use for that sort of thing.
But so you could kind of, if you could just could you use Passport in the same city, but maybe hanging out in a slightly cooler area?
That's exactly another great use for it. And some people, they have large commutes. They might have a large 1-hour commute, to work, and they're not really interested in meeting people around their work. They're interested in meeting people around their home. So they can set their location back to home, to a few mile radius,
right.
and continue on their lunch break meeting people that are relevant to them.
And are you seeing any other kind of behavior as you're testing this? And what are the kind of factors that are in the mix of other features that you think people might want to pay extra for, and how they pay for that?
There's a lot of different things that we're going to play with, whether they become part of our Tinder Plus package or whether they become part of the features that everybody has. Everything from ways of organizing your matches or perhaps to filtering to essentially trying to optimize your experience for getting matches. There's a lot of different things. I can't really speak the specifics, but it's a long list.
Okay, all right. And what are the kind of boundaries of how much people will pay for that? Is that a one-off? Is it a subscription?
So,
is it $1? Is it $10? I mean, people spend a lot of money in online dating.
People do spend a lot of money on online dating. That's sort of exactly what we're doing right now is testing that, and I think it's gonna, it'll change too as we have different features included in the package. The willingness of people to purchase it will change. So the pricing will probably be flexible, as we go along. But it will be a subscription service as it is.
And how do you think about that pricing from a competitive point of view? Is there an opportunity to come in there and undercut some of the existing players, or do you want to, make sure that you keep, you can maximize that value for yourselves? Like, what's Tinder's kind of role in that stack? Because people use different dating apps simultaneously.
Absolutely. So people use multiple, and I think if you look at what we're doing, it's almost each service has their little thing. So for instance, the things that we're including in our subscription service are things that other services do for free. I can go on OkCupid and change my location. I can do that on other services. So really, it's I don't see it as being a competitive thing. Us having Tinder Plus does not make a competitive product for anybody else. It's sort of very specific to that platform. So it's really about trying to drive value that people want on our specific platform.
And back on the kind of design thing, how do you add those features to the app without either sort of diluting the core proposition or overwhelming the app? And I mean, you have such a strong brand in this kind of area, but you could take it in all sorts of different directions. Do you do multiple apps? Do you try and do you do a hamburger button? Like how do you kind of pack all that in?
Well, we did have a hamburger button, then we killed it, and so we definitely battle these things. It's I guess the answer is very carefully, but no, we did have a hamburger button. We got rid of it because we wanted to get it to be more simple, basic and simple. We do take things out. We're very product oriented. We're very we also are mobile first, if not mobile only. Right. So we really, I think, understand, and we're always striving for that simplicity. Sometimes things get a little complicated, and we erase it and come back to it. And it's something that we're going to be continuously focusing on and painstakingly trying to keep things simple.
Does it make? I mean, Facebook and a bunch of other companies are playing around with unbundling one app and into lots of different things to keep that experience a bit simpler. Is that something you could see happening at Tinder?
I think eventually, sure. Right now, I don't think there's a need to. I think we're very simple, that there isn't a need to do much of any sort of unbundling. But I think as we expand and we have multiple products, I think that's always an option. But I wouldn't say that it's an immediate thing that we're going to do.
Tinder was pretty early on Android Wear in the wearables space. I think you were preloaded in the first watches that were announced at Google I/O.
We weren't, yeah.
Or at least kind of
might have been preloaded.
In the launch
yeah.
deck.
Yes, we were one of the first.
Well, how do you see how people using that app at the moment, and how do you kind of see that evolving in wearables? Is there a role for Tinder there, or is it just too small to see how hot people are?
Absolutely. It's fun. It's a lot of fun on Android Wear. We do have the ability to sort of swipe swipe people, and it's a kind of a neat experience. That said, I think I think that we would end up moving in a little bit of a different direction and not have that be the focus. I think what we found, and is something I think Google has also sort of touted, is that it's not about having full app experiences on the watch. It's about last minute information. It's about those notifications. It's really on the go. And I think that's really where the focus is. I think you know, there will be a lot of people with taking missteps trying to cram their entire app into the watch. I think it's the same sort of thing that you saw with, you know, from desktop to you know, to phone or to smartphone, is that things need to be trimmed down to their very basics, and we'll continue to do that. And I think it's going to be exciting. I think there's a lot of uses for Tinder in that'll be very convenient to allow people to communicate. I think what you know, you might be, you know, you're heading out on a date or you're going to be meeting up with somebody, and what I think a mobile app can do on the watch is allow you to quickly and easily access that person, to look up that address that you were meeting them at and get directions to it, or to tell them you're running late. And so I think really optimizing it to be able to do that is key.
Okay, and how do you see Apple and WatchKit, which they've just put out to developers? Is that a very different experience? Are they letting you play with different things?
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. I carry both phones, but I'm looking forward to getting my hands on a Apple Watch, or I guess having an Apple Watch on my hands. But yeah, it should be. It'll be a lot of fun. We've been looking at it. I think we will focus sort of like on what we just described. I think it's early. We'll end up. They'll provide a lot more functionality in the future, I'm sure. But it's pretty exciting, and I think we'll be able to accomplish that.
You were a skeptic, I think, on wearables for a while.
I was.
What kind of changed your mind?
I was. You know, I think when I first saw Android Wear, some of the things, and then when we started working with it, and I wore one, and I'm not wearing it right now because the battery's out, but that was not a dig at it.
No.
But it just, I think that first moment where I got an email, and I was out in a public place and had a drink in one hand, and I looked at it, read it, and said, "Okay, Google," basically, and responded to it without taking my phone out, and it was a really fluid experience, and I think that was really the turning point. I think that it might be a little bit confusing for the next couple of years, though, because I think everybody's going to be keep looking down at their watch, and everybody's going to think that they're in a hurry.
Yeah.
I experience that a lot.
Yeah, the etiquette question is definitely not to be determined. I think we've got to wrap up, unfortunately, but Jonathan, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to chat today.
Pleasure. Thank you.